dive in. Today we're taking a closer look at William Nutting's Nut Stuff newsletters.
Yeah.
You know those recent ones you sent over?
Right.
Full of, like, market takes, global trends,
Uh-huh.
some pretty bold predictions, gotta say.
Yeah.
He's definitely not your typical financial commentator.
No, definitely not. He's got that reputation, as a contrarian investor, someone who's willing to kind of go against the grain a little bit,
Yeah.
bet on those unconventional ideas. And what's fascinating to me is how that approach seems to be working out for him.
Right.
His portfolio is up, over 11.5% year to date?
Yeah.
That's crushing both the S&P 500,
Yeah.
which, as most people know, is a key indicator of the U.S. stock market.
Right.
And the MSCI AWY, which tracks a broader range of global companies.
Yeah.
So significantly outperforming both of those.
That kind of return definitely gets your attention.
It does.
But, got to be careful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results.
Right. Always have to say that.
But still,
Yeah.
it's worth looking at what's driving this success.
Absolutely.
And one thing that really jumps out is his focus on, he calls them founder-led platform businesses.
Right.
Yeah, and you see that theme pop up a lot.
You do. And he seems to believe that, these companies with founders still at the helm, they have like a unique edge.
Okay.
Often they've got a stronger vision,
Right.
a deeper understanding of their specific industry.
Right.
And a willingness to take risks,
Yeah.
that maybe a more traditional CEO might shy away from.
Interesting.
And you think of companies like Uber, Grab,
Right.
or even him as the telehealth company,
Right.
all really disrupted their markets.
Uh-huh.
And those founders have been a huge part of that success.
I think he even mentions how he had some founder-led companies like
Yeah.
Palantir and SoFi
Right.
that he sold maybe a bit too early.
Yeah, like the ones that got away kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see how that theme plays out in his current holdings.
Right.
Especially his big exposure to China.
That's maybe his most contrarian bet.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of investors are, wary of China right now.
Right.
The regulatory crackdowns, geopolitical tensions,
Uh-huh.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
But Nutting seems to see opportunity there.
Okay.
He's increased his holdings in companies like Pinduoduo,
Yeah.
PDD, the Chinese e-commerce giant.
Right.
And even goes as far to say that there is much more to play for in China than Europe.
Wow, yeah.
He's pretty firm on that.
That's a bold statement.
It is.
It's almost like he's seeing things
Yeah.
through a different lens, seeing potential where others are, or seeing risk.
Yeah.
And this brings us to, I think, one of his most intriguing picks.
Okay.
Alibaba. He's incredibly bullish on Alibaba.
He is.
Baba, the ticker symbol.
Yeah.
Comparing it to Amazon.
Uh-huh.
Arguing that it's significantly undervalued.
Yeah, and one of the things he points out that's really interesting is that only 0.18% of Baba shares are owned by ETFs.
Okay.
Compared to 12.5% for Amazon.
Huh.
And he thinks that low ETF ownership might be contributing to that perceived undervaluation.
Okay, now that's not something you hear every day.
No, it's a unique perspective.
Can you break that down for us a little bit?
Sure.
Like, how does ETF ownership actually affect a stock's price?
Well, so ETFs, or exchange-traded funds,
right?
They're basically like baskets of stocks that track a particular index or sector.
Okay.
And when you have a large percentage of a company's shares held by these ETFs, it can create kind of a price floor. It limits the downside risk.
Interesting.
But it can also mean that the stock might not fully reflect its true value, especially if that ETF is tracking a broad index. That doesn't really capture the company's specific growth potential.
I see. So Nutting's argument is that Alibaba, with its slow ETF ownership, has more room to run.
Potentially, yeah.
More potential to break out if the market starts to recognize its true value.
Exactly. He sees it as, potentially a diamond in the rough, a company with strong fundamentals that's being overlooked by a lot of the mainstream investment community.
Okay.
And he even points to a potential meeting between Jack Ma, Alibaba's founder, and President Xi Jinping as a sign that maybe the regulatory environment in China is starting to thaw a little bit.
Yeah, but, got to be realistic.
Oh, for sure.
Investing in China, it comes with its own risks, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we've seen how quickly things can change the regulatory landscape. Yeah. There's always that potential for geopolitical tensions to escalate.
Right, yeah. It's definitely not without risk.
Yeah.
But Nutting acknowledges those risks. But he think the potential rewards outweigh those downsides.
Okay.
He's really betting on China's long-term economic growth. And Alibaba's ability to kind of capitalize on that growth.
It's a high-stakes gamble.
It is.
But one that could pay off big time if he's right.
Yeah, if he's right.
And speaking of high-stakes gambles, we can't forget about his long-term bullish view on Tesla.
Right.
He's predicting that it'll be the world's #1 company by 2030.
Wow.
With a potential valuation of $3 to $5 trillion.
That's a huge number.
That's a pretty bold prediction.
It is. To put that in perspective, that would put Tesla on par with current giants like Apple and Microsoft.
Right.
I mean, it's really something.
Yeah.
And his prediction really hinges on a few key factors.
Okay.
The successful integration of AI across all their products and services, the continued growth of Starlink, their satellite internet service, and the widespread adoption of robotics through their Optimus project.
So he's not just betting on electric vehicles.
No.
He's betting on Tesla becoming like a tech titan.
Right, like a company at the forefront of multiple disruptive industries.
Yeah, but is that a realistic vision?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly ambitious, one that requires Tesla to execute flawlessly on multiple fronts.
Right.
I mean, they've got to overcome challenges related to production, competition, technological advancements. I mean, it's a lot.
And then there's the whole question of Elon Musk, his leadership style. I mean, he's a visionary, no doubt.
Yeah.
But his impulsive nature and tendency to overpromise.
Yeah, it can create some uncertainty.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So
investing in Tesla is, in many ways, investing in Elon Musk's vision for the future.
Yeah.
And that vision, while compelling, is not without its risks.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We've got a contrarian investor betting on founder-led companies.
Right.
Taking a bold stance on China, predicting Tesla's rise to global dominance.
Yeah.
What else is in store for us in nut stuff?
Well, he doesn't hold back when it comes to Europe.
No, he does not.
Let's just say that.
Yeah, his critique of Europe and the leadership there, it's pretty scathing.
Yeah.
I mean, he calls the leadership a gaggle of dull incompetence, corrupt opportunists, and imbecilic idealists.
Strong words.
Yeah, ouch.
Yeah, but I mean, beyond the colorful language, there are some legitimate concerns he's raising.
Yeah.
He points to economic stagnation, this over-reliance on Russia for energy, and what he sees as ineffective immigration policies.
Yeah, he even calls the EU a failed experiment.
Yeah.
And he uses a very specific example to kind of illustrate his point.
Okay.
He talks about the Baltic states cutting themselves off from the Russian grid, only to see electricity prices just skyrocket.
Yeah.
Like 333% in just a week.
It's a real issue, and it really highlights Europe's vulnerability in that era.
Right.
They're so reliant on Russia for energy, and finding these alternative sources, it's proving to be really difficult and expensive. And this has real potential to lead to further economic instability and even social unrest.
So what's Nutting's solution here?
Well, he basically says, Europe, wake up.
Okay.
Reform or die.
Wow.
He's really advocating for like a major shift in direction, a move away from what he sees as, bureaucratic inefficiencies and these kind of short-sighted policies.
It's a pretty stark assessment.
It is.
But it does raise some important questions, I think.
Yeah.
About the long-term viability of the European project.
Right. Are they equipped to deal with these challenges of a rapidly changing world, or are they headed for decline?
Now, in contrast to this this kind of gloomy outlook on Europe,
Yeah.
Knowing seems much more optimistic about the U.S.
He does.
under the new administration.
Yeah, he describes what he calls a
Right.
ruthless focus on self-interest and realism.
Okay.
Which he sees as a positive development.
Right.
And he's particularly supportive of this idea that the U.S. needs to kind of strengthen from within.
Okay.
Focus on limiting the role of government,
Right.
reducing debt, fostering economic growth.
So it sounds like he's advocating for kind of a more pragmatic approach to governing.
I think so.
One that really prioritizes those national interests and economic competitiveness.
Right.
But how does that translate into actionable investment advice for the average person?
That's a great question. And I think Nutting's overall message is about adapting, adapting to this changing world, recognizing those emerging trends, and positioning yourself accordingly. And he really emphasized this importance of geographical diversification.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Spreading your investments across different regions can really help mitigate risk and capture those growth opportunities in different markets.
And that ties into his advice about avoiding those overcrowded mega caps.
Right. Don't just blindly follow the herd into the most popular stocks.
Yeah.
Look for those undervalued assets, the companies with strong fundamentals.
Right.
That maybe haven't been fully recognized by the market yet.
So he's really encouraging us to kind of think like contrarians.
Yeah.
To look for opportunity where others are seeing risk.
Exactly.
And this brings us back to his idea of hedging against what he calls fiat currency excess.
Right.
With gold and tokenization.
Yeah, this is where things get a little more complex.
Yeah, it sounds a little cryptic.
It does, but it boils down to this.
Okay.
Nutting's concern about the potential for inflation and the devaluing of traditional currencies, what we call fiat currency.
Okay.
And he sees gold as this kind of safe haven asset, something that tends to hold its value during those times of economic uncertainty.
So gold is like an insurance policy.
Exactly.
To your portfolio.
A way to protect yourself against potential losses in other areas.
Okay.
And then you've got tokenization, which is a bit more complex.
Yep.
It involves representing real-world assets.
Okay.
Like real estate or commodities as digital tokens on a blockchain.
Okay, so we're wading into the world of crypto here.
We are a little bit, but Nutting seems to think that tokenization has this potential to really revolutionize investing.
Okay.
It could make these traditionally illiquid assets more accessible to a wider range of investors.
Right.
And potentially even create new opportunities for wealth creation.
It's a fascinating concept.
It is.
But it also sounds a bit risky.
Oh, for sure. This is still a relatively new and unregulated space.
Right.
It's really important to do your research, understand those underlying assets, and just be aware of those potential risks involved. But it's definitely an area worth exploring, especially if you're looking for those alternative investment strategies.
So we've got a contrarian investor advocating for diversification, warning against complacency, embracing emerging trends.
Right.
It's a lot to digest.
It is.
But there are some valuable nuggets of wisdom, I think, hidden in there.
Absolutely. Nutting's really challenging us to think differently about the markets, to look beyond those headlines and to consider those alternative perspectives.
Speaking of alternative perspectives, we got to mention one about the more unexpected elements we found in nut stuff.
Right.
His investment in Crocks.
Right. That one caught my eye, too.
Yeah.
He sees it as a value play.
Okay.
Pointing to its low price-to-earnings ratio and high free cash flow yield.
Okay.
And he thinks the market's undervaluing Crocks, particularly their Hey Dude brand, which he sees as having really strong growth potential.
So maybe those comfy clogs aren't just a fashion statement.
Maybe not.
They could be a smart investment.
That's what he seems to think. He's always looking for those hidden gems, those companies that are flying under the radar and have that potential to really outperform expectations.
Yeah, it's a reminder that investing isn't just about, numbers and charts. It's also about understanding
consumer trends.
Yeah, and identifying brands that have that loyal following.
Yeah, and speaking of trends, he also kind of delves into this digital kiss phenomenon.
Okay.
The story of Lionel Messi's digital bodyguard
Oh, right.
and the potential impact of these meme coins on politics.
Okay.
It sounds bizarre,
Yeah.
but it highlights this growing influence of crypto and how it's starting to intersect with all aspects of our lives.
It's a reminder that we are living in a rapidly changing world.
They are.
One where the lines between the physical and digital are becoming increasingly blurred. And it's essential to stay informed.
Right.
And adapt to these changes if we want to thrive.
It's also a reminder that not all investments are created equal.
Right.
And that sometimes the most hyped up assets can be the riskiest.
Right.
It's important to approach all investments with a healthy dose of skepticism and do your own research before jumping in.
Always sounds advice.
Always.
But let's end on a more inspiring note.
Okay.
Nutting includes this quote from Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, yeah.
Who at 87 years old still wakes up every morning with the desire to misbehave.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's a great reminder that it's never too late to embrace life.
Yeah.
To be curious, to learn, to keep pushing boundaries.
And that applies to investing as well.
It does.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about staying open to new ideas, challenging conventional wisdom, and never losing that sense of wonder and possibility.
For sure.
But of course, got to remember, these are the opinions of just one investor.
One person's perspective.
Yeah.
It's important to do your own research.
Right.
Consult with qualified professionals and make those investment decisions that are right for your individual circumstances.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's interesting how he ties together all these seemingly disparate ideas, from global politics, microeconomics, individual stock picks, and even these like quirky cultural observations.
He's definitely a big picture thinker.
Yeah.
But he's not afraid to kind of get into those nitty-gritty details. And I think that's what makes his newsletter so compelling.
Yeah.
He's not just giving you investment advice. He's trying to help you understand the world around you and how to kind of navigate it successfully.
And one of the key takeaways for me is this idea of adapting to a changing world.
Oh, absolutely.
We're living in a time of just unprecedented change.
For sure.
Technological advancements, geopolitical shifts, economic uncertainty.
It's more important than ever to be adaptable, to challenge our assumptions, to be willing to embrace those new ideas.
So what does that look like in practice?
He gives us some concrete steps we can take.
Okay.
Diversifying geographically is a big one.
Don't just limit yourself to your home market.
Right. Think globally. Invest globally.
Yeah.
It's a way to spread risk and potentially tap into those higher growth markets.
Okay.
And this kind of ties into his advice about avoiding those overcrowded mega caps.
Yeah, don't just blindly follow the herd.
Exactly. Into the most popular stocks.
Yeah. Right.
Look for those undervalued assets, companies with strong fundamentals that maybe haven't been fully recognized by the market yet.
So he's really encouraging us to think like contrarians.
He is.
Right, to look for opportunity where others are seeing risk.
Yeah, exactly.
And this brings us back to his idea of hedging against fiat currency with gold and tokenization.
Yeah, this is where things get a little more complex.
It is.
But it's worth kind of exploring further.
Okay, so break it down for us.
All right. So essentially he's concerned about this potential for inflation and the erosion of purchasing power.
Right.
And gold has long been seen as that safe haven asset, a store of value that tends to hold up well during those times of economic uncertainty.
So it's like an insurance policy for your portfolio.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you've got tokenization.
Right.
Which is a way to invest in those real world assets that are typically illiquid and difficult to access. So things like, real estate, art,
Right.
even intellectual property.
So instead of buying shares of like a real estate investment trust,
Right.
I could potentially buy a token that represents a fraction of an actual building.
Precisely. And because these tokens are on a blockchain, they can be traded easily and securely.
Okay.
So it potentially opens up those types of investments to a much wider range of people.
It's a fascinating concept.
It is.
But it's important to remember that it's still
for sure.
relatively new.
Yeah.
Unregulated.
It is a risky space.
There are definitely risks involved.
Absolutely. It's crucial to do your research, understand those underlying assets, and be aware of that potential for fraud or scams.
But it's also an area with enormous potential.
It is.
I mean, tokenization could, revolutionize the way we invest.
It really could.
Make alternative assets more accessible. Create new opportunities.
And I think that's what Nutting is ultimately trying to do with these newsletters.
Right.
You know, he's not just giving you a list of stocks to buy. He's challenging you to expand your thinking.
Yeah.
To explore those new possibilities and become a more informed and engaged investor.
He's encouraging us to become lifelong learners.
Yeah.
Stay curious and never stop exploring.
For sure. And that's a message that really resonates with me.
Yeah, me too.
Investing isn't just about making money.
Right.
It's about growing as an individual, understanding the world around us, and making those informed decisions that align with our values.
Well said.
And I think that's a great note to end on.
Yeah.
You know, the ideas we've discussed today, they're just a starting point.
Right.
It's up to each of you to do your own research, consult with those qualified professionals, and make those decisions that are right for your individual circumstances.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into William Nutting's Net Stuff newsletters.
It's been a fascinating journey through his mind.
Yeah, we hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit entertaining.
For sure.
Until next time, happy investing.
Happy investing.
Disclaimer. North Breach Limited, Nutstuff trading name, is an appointed representative of Messels Limited, which is authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Nutstuff has made every reasonable effort to ensure the information provided in this communication is correct, but Nutstuff makes no representation nor any warranty as to whether the information is accurate, complete, or up to date. To the extent permitted by law, Nutstuff accepts no responsibility for any errors or misstatements, negligent or otherwise. Nutstuff, its associates, officers, or employees may also have interests in the financial instruments referred to in this information by acting in various roles. The information in this media is confidential. If you are not the intended recipient, you are not authorized to use the information in this media in any way. Nutstuff does not guarantee the integrity of any media or attached files. The view or opinions expressed are the author's own and may not reflect the view or opinions of Nutstuff. Electronic communications carried within the Nutstuff system may be monitored.